Hi, I'm Carson.
I'm Jordan.
Welcome to Take Two, and today we're going to be discussing the latest movie in the DC Expanded Universe, Suicide Squad.
I want to assemble a task force of the most dangerous people on the planet.
They're bad guys. Worst of the worst.
Nothing really matters to me.
Hey, Carson.
Yeah.
You know what's getting old?
What?
Superhero movies.
They are.
You know what's getting older?
What?
DC superhero movies.
Yeah, they really are.
There are a lot of negatives here, but at the same time, I think this is a movie with negatives that has a decent amount of positives on top of it.
Sure.
I'd like to start by saying, in my opinion at least, Will Smith is the best part of this movie as Deadshot.
Yeah, I agree. He's a great part of this movie, but I think that comes with the fact that he's most of this movie. He is kind of the main character. It kind of feels like Will Smith and the Suicide Squad, which is a little frustrating at some points, which I think some people could see as a negative, but he is great in this movie.
There's a lot of characters in this movie, and the Suicide Squad alone makes up, 5 or 6 of them?
Yeah.
And I can't necessarily expound upon the performances of each and every one of them, because some of them are so minor that it doesn't matter. But, of course, Deadshot was the standout, I guess. He was the main of them. But we also have the first film appearance of Harley Quinn in live action, played by Margot Robbie. And you have a differing opinion on her than I have.
Yeah, I think she was a good casting choice for Harley Quinn. I wish we could have seen more of her, because even though she is probably the second most prominent character in the movie,
Right.
We still don't see a whole lot of her, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But I liked her. I like Harley Quinn a lot. She's one of my favorite, if not my favorite part of the Batman universe, aside from Joker. She's super fascinating, and I like her backstory. I just wish they kind of did more with her in this movie.
A third standout that isn't really a huge standout in the Suicide Squad itself was El Diablo, who I don't know much about that character. He's very, very minor, but he was very interesting in this movie. He had a sort of faux heart of gold to him, which didn't really mix together well with the rest of the characters in the squad, but a standout, I think.
Yeah, I think he had his own motivations, which were a little different than any other villain that you kind of see.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting. And he talks about being, rehabilitated, but he actually feels that way. It's a little different. And he's a surprising add to the Suicide Squad, but I think he adds a different relationship and dynamic.
Last, I guess, sort of main character in the film that I want to touch on is Rick Flag, played by Joel Kinnaman, who isn't exactly an A-list actor.
No.
And it shows. He was in the RoboCop remake and he was okay, but in this he is just sort of there and really iffy a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it had a lot to do with the writing or if it was just direction on set, but there are a couple lines that he delivers that are just awful. It feels like a third grader reading off of a paper.
Right.
It's really bad.
There was an actor attached to this very early on in the development of the movie. I think Tom Hardy was supposed to play Rick Flag, and I'm actually kind of glad that didn't happen.
I mean, it was a smart choice on his part.
Yeah.
I don't know what he passed up.
I think he was. I don't think he said no to the project. He was attached. I mean, he was on board, and I think he favored. I think it may have been even finishing Revenant over this, which I think everyone in the world can agree. Good job with that choice.
Smart choice.
Yeah, it would have been weird to see him in this, and I'm kind of glad we didn't. The villain in this movie, and a lot of superhero movies, is, again, not great.
Yeah. Very, I don't know, it felt a little weird to have the villain's motivation so clear, but also it felt very convoluted, and the story just was not told well enough.
I don't agree that it was clear. I think it was super vague.
But I mean, it's very generic villain motive.
Right.
I want to do this, and it makes, you get it.
I understood the main reason they were doing what they were doing, but at the same time, I don't understand how it was supposed to fit in with anything else. It was just here it is. And that's a problem with the movie at the very beginning. It was released today, actually. There's an article on Reddit. I don't know if you saw it yet. This movie was edited by a company that normally edits trailers.
Really?
And it shows, especially at the beginning. Each character is introduced within a minute, right?
Yeah.
They go sort of like Guardians and the whole prison thing.
Yeah.
But worse. They just, here's Harley Quinn, here's what she does, here's Deadshot, here's what he does. It's sort of jarring, I guess. It felt like a trailer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they devoted enough time to these characters that, are just super interesting and when fleshed out can be incredibly fascinating and make for real compelling characters on screen.
Yeah.
But they kind of gloss over it. And the only one that they don't do that to is Will Smith's character, Deadshot, which, is a shame. But I get, you have to have a character that's a through line and you have to have one that you kind of follow, especially in a big group like this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a shame that you sacrifice character development for this kind of mediocre story.
I guess if we are speaking on the front of the movie being as just here, there, everywhere as it was, the editing in this is pretty damn bad.
I think now that we know who did it, it's a little more apparent.
Well, I don't even think that. I think it's also the studio interference because just like Batman v Superman, Warner Brothers had a lot of input into this that I don't necessarily think they should have been allowed. David Ayer's script was probably very different from this. I know a lot of footage was cut. I know a lot of scenes were cut, and it's a shame to see. But there are cuts in this movie where you're just like, okay, now we're here, this is going on. Okay, now this has happened, this is happening, this has already happened, this is going to happen. It's really hard to follow, especially in the continuity for the DC universe, because there's a cameo in this really quickly during one of the character introductions. It's like, okay, has this guy already been around?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to place where this is in the timeline.
Yeah,
because
it's after the death of Superman and Batman v Superman. Spoilers.
They address that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also has this group of people started operating yet? It's really odd. And it took me out of the movie trying to think about it because it was during an expository scene where you're introducing these characters. Maybe that was the reason I couldn't get behind the characters that much, but I don't know. The editing in this was not that great.
So there's kind of a big thing, especially with Batman-related movies, character that you're going to have to introduce that, people are touchy about because people really care for two particular performances of this character. And we have Jared Leto as the Joker.
So here's the thing. It's been widely known, I'm sure everyone knows now, that he's not in the movie much at all. Probably, 7 minutes of screen time total?
Maybe less.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, what you've seen in the trailers, all of them, combined is pretty much half of what he says. And I don't mean in the movie time, but line-wise. You pretty much see everything he says in this movie in the trailers.
You have seen half of his lines, which is really strange. And the thing is, I don't necessarily think, and I know you disagree with me here, I don't necessarily think I can form a full opinion on the Joker yet, because I don't think I've seen enough to say I don't like him, and I haven't seen enough to say that I do like him. And it's a weird mix to introduce the character this way. Maybe it'll prove to be a fantastic Joker. I just don't know yet, but I know you disagree.
Yeah, I disagree mostly because... It's a fucking ant. I disagree mostly because it felt very un-Joker-ish. You know what I mean? He just felt like a sort of kingpin character that they shoved in, and his name happened to be Joker.
Sure.
He dresses like a pimp. He's very different. It's a very different take on the Joker, but like I said, it feels not like that character at all to me.
Right.
Because he doesn't feel as crazy as he does. He feels a little more plotting and, thinking ahead of things, because there's several scenes where you see him messing with other people and he's got this weird plan. I don't know. It just felt very off to me.
I think that's excusable in some respects because every Joker incarnation has been different, which I will give the movie credit for. It's doing something new with this character. It's just weird to see, I think, coming right off of, not even right off, but the last Joker we had is the best Joker that we're maybe ever going to get. Mm-hmm. Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight is one of the best villains of any movie, in my opinion. I love that character. And it's going to be hard to top that, and I don't even think it's possible at this point.
Well, he put a spin on it that, once you've gone there and no one had before, it's kind of hard to do anything else without feeling like you're inspired by it or you're kind of pulling things from it, which is a shame. And I think this Joker definitely feels a little bit redactive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's strange, and his laugh is a bit off. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't necessarily agree with him being this crime boss because Joker should be like a standalone thing. I don't know. It's weird to see. Maybe it'll grow on me. I don't really have an opinion right now. That will obviously change in the future once I see more of him, though. There's a discussion that has to be made really quickly about Marvel versus DC and why those movies are better suited for audiences on a large scale. you have to have an underlying knowledge of DC to enjoy these movies to their fullest potential. I don't necessarily think that's true with Marvel. And a lot of people will say, you're a Marvel fanboy or something, right? That company has been putting characters on screen since 2008, yearly, and we've had time to see them grow. And it feels like, again, this movie is playing catch-up with Marvel. They aren't exactly setting things up in the way that a Marvel movie would, like this stepped, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. It's just like we have to rush it, and I don't necessarily agree that that is the right way to set up a universe like this. So I don't know. It's not a matter of DC versus Marvel fanboys. It's a matter of this company is making movies better than this one. And
I think it's a matter of good storytelling versus bad storytelling,
right.
And a lot of people, I think, tend to think that DC's main problem is the tone, and I think DC tried to correct that a little bit in this movie by making it a little more lighthearted. It's very hard to see this movie being so lighthearted when it's taking place in this universe that is so dark and so brooding and so serious. And then you have this movie that all of a sudden adds this weird, lighthearted flair, and it feels completely out of place.
Mm-hmm. I am going to give this a 4.
Yeah, I'm going to give it about a 4.5.
Yeah, it's a shame, too, because if you had told me 3 years ago when I walked out of Man of Steel, which I didn't care for, that 3 years later it would still be my favorite DC Universe film, I would be depressed and shocked. But I think Man of Steel is better than Batman v Superman, which I feel is better than this.
We're off to a rocky start. Who knows where it's going to go from here? Then maybe the standalone Batman films will be good if, they still proceed with them after some of this bad critical reception.
Hopefully Wonder Woman will prove us wrong.
Hopefully, but the trailer looks nice, but if anything has shown us, anything, is that the trailers for Suicide Squad looked pretty great, and this movie was just okay.
Yeah, it's a shame. This movie should have been great, and they're now 0 for 3. The DC Universe is very rocky right now, and I really hope they can kickstart it because DC's characters are great. They're even better than Marvel, in my opinion.
I think so, too.
You just got to get the stories right, man. And I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I'm along for the ride as long as I can stand it. All right. So if you like this review, be sure to let us know. Like, comment, subscribe. If you do so choose. It's nice to see discussions going on about the movies that are meriting themselves for discussion. It's also nice to see when people defend movies that we don't necessarily agree with. So either way, let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe if you so choose if you like it. And we will see you next time.